These days, we're overstimulated by tech. We're working long hours, we're working out hard. And while we might not be working ourselves into an early death, we might be working ourselves into adrenal fatigue or burnout. But imagine if we didn't. Health Explorer Neil Fellows here from Total Wellness Club. And if you want to get healthy and fit and stay healthy and fit and do it in a way that's natural and unique to you, then please subscribe and hit the bell to get notified of all of our latest uploads. Years ago, I was building a business, I was exercising, I was dieting to lose weight, I was managing my home life, and then when everyone else had gone to bed, I was managing a legal battle that went on for 6 years. Needless to say, eventually I burnt out. One day I lost my drive. It was like the lights just went out or the power had just been cut. Joining me today to discuss adrenal fatigue and diet as well as burnout is lifestyle and nutrition coach, Dr. Chris Pickard. So Chris, what are some of the symptoms of adrenal fatigue?
Right, yes, good question. So yes, I go through the symptoms. They are pretty varied, but basically fatigue. Fatigue is the big one. It's fatigue. Exhaustion, basically getting up in the morning, or rather not being able to get up in the morning. You have a really good night's sleep, but you get up and you just can't get up in the morning because you're just so tired, really. That's the main things. But it can also be like brain fog as well. Sometimes it's related to aches and pains as well, inability to sort of exercise as much as you want to. And then you can sort of have other things in there as well. Sometimes it's mixed with stomach upsets as well, but basically it's fatigue and not being able to get up in the morning.
Yeah, I can relate to this as well because having suffered from it, it really can be incredibly difficult. It's almost like depression. You know, you wake up in the morning and you do not want to get out of bed. You have no energy. When you do get out, you feel like you're dragging your knuckles along the floor.
Yeah.
It can be very debilitating. What part does diet play in adrenal fatigue?
Well, I think the first thing to actually realise about adrenal fatigue, if I can go a little bit off of the diet thing here, is what actually is adrenal fatigue. Because the set of symptoms really they exist. Lots of people have this. But the label of adrenal fatigue, I think, is a complete misnomer. I don't think that's actually what's really going on. Better names are things like, just called burnout syndrome, vital exhaustion, chronic fatigue syndrome. Okay, those are far better terms for what is actually going on. And there's a lot of actual research about those things. Whereas the idea that your symptoms are because your adrenal glands, which secrete adrenaline and cortisol and have a few other things, the idea that they're kind of a bit fatigued doesn't actually stack up to science, because if you don't have your adrenaline, if you don't have your adrenals working, it's actually a medical problem like Cushing's disease or Addison's, where you actually need medication because your adrenals just are not working. And your body will do stuff to keep your adrenals working to the last minute, because without them, you're pretty much dead.
Yeah.
So they don't really get fatigued. We don't hear of like, pancreas fatigue, maybe, that does lead to insulin problems, but you don't really hear so much of liver fatigue or stomach fatigue or colon fatigue. You don't hear of thyroid fatigue. There's a reason as to why you're not getting the energy. And one of the main things that people do to diagnose adrenal fatigue is the idea that one of your hormones, cortisol, is low in the morning, and they usually do a saliva test. It's low in the morning and high at the end of the day, or it's just low. Okay. But here's the thing. Studies looking at fatigue and cortisol show there's no direct correlation between your cortisol levels and how much energy you have. So people can have low energy and high cortisol. People can have high cortisol, low energy, and it can be the reverse. People can have high energy, low cortisol, but they can also have it the other way around.
Yeah.
And also, people can actually start getting better from fatigue, and they can have had normal cortisol, but then it gets lower, but they have more energy.
Yeah.
So this whole thing of cortisol linking with adrenal fatigue and energy, there's nothing in the science that actually really backs that up. There are just as many studies that say one thing than the other, and there are more that just are completely inconclusive. So, and also, your adrenal glands don't create energy. What creates energy is something inside your cell called the mitochondria. Your mitochondria creates your energy, and it doesn't. And also, your mitochondria are the things that create cortisol and all your other hormones, and they're in every cell of your body, not just the adrenals. The adrenals just has more specialized cells that pump out loads more cortisol when needed. So really, if you're fatigued, it's probably because of your mitochondria more than anything else. And it's about trying to get your mitochondria working. And yes, food does have a role, but if you're just looking at that cortisol thing, okay, whether you've got low cortisol in the morning or not, then what's actually happening is it's what's called your circadian rhythm is out of whack, which is all of your hormones basically are meant to surge in the morning, and they're meant to deplete certain of them as you get at the end of the day, and then your melatonin is meant to go up to help you sleep. And your circadian rhythm is a function of the amount of light you're getting first thing in the morning and what light you're getting at the end of the day. So if you want to reset your circadian rhythm and get that cortisol working in the right place, what you actually have to do is nothing to do with food. You have to get up in the morning and you have to go outside and get lots of actual sunlight on you, even if it's a grey day. Even if it's a grey day, a well-lit room might have about 1500 lux, but if you go outside, it's 15,000 even on a grey day. So if you are having fatigue, okay, and you've got cortisol levels down to bats, what you need to do is you need to get outside as early as possible and get lots of lux and get lots of blue light at the beginning of the day. Because blue light sets off this whole reaction of different hormones throughout the day that ends with melatonin going up and you're getting good sleep. And at the end of the day, you have to stop blue light coming in. And the trouble is, mobile phones, computer screens, TV, they're all blue light. So you need to decrease the blue light. So you can either turn everything off, or you can wear some blue blocking glasses, things that actually stop the blue light. So they stop your brain thinking it's morning. The other thing to do is get rid of overhead lights at night and use lamps and lampshades so that the brain doesn't think it's midday, it thinks it's bedtime. And so really, to fix cortisol, it's about fixing light and not food. And for some people, that then fixes their fatigue as well. So that's my first thing with food. You don't need food. It's usually light is the first thing.
Okay. Really interesting. Actually, I've not really considered it from that point of view as well. And it's interesting hearing you talk about it not really being a cortisol problem, just really potentially being, as in an adrenal problem, but actually just being burnout and actually then changing the light, which can help you get up in the morning and also go to sleep in the evening. Really interesting. Let's talk about diet though, because I know diet, you mentioned mitochondria. We need to maybe understand a little bit about mitochondria. So if in a nutshell, you could tell us what that is, and then let's go on and talk about diet.
Okay, well, basically your mitochondria is, so everybody, I mean, everyone knows we've got muscles, we've got heart, we've got brain, we've got liver, we've got stomach, we've got skin, but all these things are made up of cells. Okay, so cells are basically, so skin cells are going to be a bit different from brain cells, they're going to be a bit different from liver cells, but they're all basically cells. And all your cells are made up with some DNA at the middle of it, and they've got some other various bits in there that do things like cleaning up and making things. And then there's your mitochondria. And the mitochondria are basically the factory, the energy, energy powerhouses, power stations, there you go, power stations that you have inside your body. And so if those power stations are not getting enough of the right things, then they're not going to work. Or if they're toxic, they're not going to work. And so you have to provide those with the right things to work. So if you have got low energy, then there are a few things that I recommend people do. Okay, first of all, get your circadian rhythm fixed. Okay, but also really important, if you've got low energy, you want to have a big filling breakfast. Okay, that's going to be full of, so it can be good quality carbohydrates, so whole foods, whole carbohydrates, rather than just the really processed cereals and things and white bread. You want to avoid that. You want whole, you can get whole grain bread, sourdough bread, and you can use oats, but you also want things like fruit, but you also want protein and fats as well. So whether that's eggs or whether it's fish, liver is a great one, because if your body's fatigued, then you need really high quality food full of lots of nutrients, so you're going to feed your body and build everything up. So you want a big breakfast, so you've got lots of energy, fats and calories to get you through the day. And then perhaps you want to eat less at the end of the day, but you want whole foods, organic foods, and yeah, as natural as possible. But the big thing is to also avoid certain things that can actually stop your mitochondria from working. So certain pesticides you'll find on foods, other chemicals, weed killers as well on foods, but certain medications as well, anti-inflammatories like paracetamol, antibiotics. All these things can actually interfere with your body's ability for the mitochondria to work. So it depends what you're taking and what you're doing as to what you can avoid, as well as what you can take.
Interesting. So are there, I'm guessing the foods that we really need to introduce then are things like you said, whole foods, fats, carbs, proteins, and reducing medications if we can, certainly paracetamol, you mentioned there. Is there anything else that we should be doing from a diet point of view?
Yeah, I mean, there are certain foods. There's very often one of the most critical things that's a problem with energy production is a lack of something called coenzyme Q10, okay, which you can find in various foods. Our bodies make it. But there is something that's kind of related to coenzyme Q10, which helps energy production, called PQQ. And I wrote this down because I can never remember the full name of it. It's pyrroloquinoline quinone. So PQQ for short.
PQQ.
And PQQ is something that basically helps you make more mitochondria. And so having foods that have more PQQ in is a good idea. So things like kiwi and papaya are great. They're really good sources of PQQ. Green peppers as well, parsley, fermented soy as well, but also, and lots of people are going to love this, okay, fermented cocoa. So raw fermented chocolate. So a lot of good chocolate products are actually made from fermented chocolate because it makes the chocolate better. So chocolate can be good, and green tea and oolong tea as well. So I really recommend those things are going to be a really good thing if you're fatigued, to have lots of those in your diet, but not too much milk chocolate. Okay, you want dark chocolate, fermented and organic.
It's very different. I one of my favorites is actually a raw chocolate drink. I have that in the afternoons, and it's fantastic. Banana, some almond milk, 250 ml of almond milk, tablespoonful of raw cacao, and yeah, fantastic. If you tried to take it away from me, Chris, I would hurt you. Chris, from what we've talked about today, what would your challenge be for everyone?
Okay, well, I think the first thing, because if people are tuning in because they're interested in adrenal fatigue and maybe they've actually had this cortisol test, and it's not about having more supplements. First of all, the first thing to try is actually force yourself to get out in the morning. Okay, if the morning is too difficult, then get out at midday when the sun is overhead and get some midday overhead sunshine. Okay, so get more sunshine, get outside more in the first part of the day, and then towards the end of the day, just try and minimize the light sources, switch to sources lower down. Use candles maybe. switch off your screens, and if you can, go to Amazon and get some blue blocking, or wherever, and get some blue blocking glasses. These were like about 10 quid at one point, so you can get them fairly cheaply, and just wear these in the evening if you are watching TV. Sometimes it actually makes some colours better, actually, and sometimes it doesn't. But yeah, and wear these in the evening. If you must watch a computer screen and do some work in the evening, wear these. I do at home. I actually remember to bring these in as a prop today. So,
Chris, really do appreciate your time today talking to us about adrenal fatigue and helping us to understand more about it. It was interesting to hear Chris talk about adrenal fatigue and burnout. It was also interesting to hear about his tip to get outside early in the day. It's also interesting to hear him say how it's not so much food, it's about light, and it's not about cortisol. Are you going to take Chris's challenge? Taking a challenge sometimes can be life-changing, and I'll be taking Chris's challenge. You can see my findings from this challenge in our challenge roundup video, which is a monthly summary covering all of the challenges our experts have shared. To get that video and all of our latest health and wellness uploads, including interviews and reviews, subscribe and hit the bell so you get notified whenever we post. And if this channel can help your friends and family, please share it with them too. If you want to get proactive with your health, Total Wellness Club are developing health quests over at questly.life. Join while we're developing the site and get access to health quests that immediately personalise your health. You'll get to identify which of 10 critical health categories need your attention. You'll be able to track your progress, and you'll be able to help us develop the platform too. I'll put a link in the description, and I'll see you in the next video.